Hello and welcome back. Zio here with KickAZ Gaming, and today we're going to talk about returning to Final Fantasy XIV.
And KickAZ. What happened here and welcome.
There are many types of returners, ranging from those who took a small break and just want to get caught up on the latest patches, all the way down to those like me when I initially returned, who played a bit at launch but were either overwhelmed with the multi-class system or just had too much to do to commit to a game as vast as Final Fantasy XIV. We're focusing on those almost new folks today, so stay tuned to a returner's guide for Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV, a name that, for some, brings back memories of 1.0 and the travesty that was its introduction to the world. For others, it's filled with intricate plotting and planning on the classes to level and in which order to unlock their highly desired secondary skills, while others still have never experienced either of those times and are starting fresh because their other game, wow, isn't doing it for them right now. For those of you in the third category, we'll be making a video specifically for you very soon, but there will undoubtedly be some value for you here as well, so stay tuned. And from the top, so let's assume you're either A, starting with a fresh character, or B, picking up a character that you started but only made it to the low levels around 10ish. So you've picked your class and designed your character model to the best of your ability. No one's judging you for choosing the female kitty and maximizing your options, wink wink. This is Final Fantasy after all, and my brother put it best when he told me that he only plays a female character because if he's going to spend X number 100 hours playing a game, it definitely won't be a dude's ass he's watching while he walks from place to place. So what's next? Well, now the fun begins. After some long-winded introduction to the world and its systems, you get to explore freely and venture out into the open world. As you level, you'll gain skills and abilities that will increase your overall power, and you'll meet many interesting characters that will shape your experience throughout the game. Sounds like every other Final Fantasy you've ever played, right? Well, you're wrong. While all of that is true, it's easy to progress by following the story without ever touching some of the coolest features in the game. First order of business. I would love to put some game-changing advice here, and to some it may be, but I need to start with some basic quality of life changes you can make in the UI immediately to make your initial experience less frustrating, especially if you're used to other games with better tab targeting systems. Let's start with character customization. These settings are unique to this character and will not transfer to any alts that you may create if you feel so inclined. Number 1. Under Control Settings in the General tab, select all 3 skip options. While the in-game cinematics are awesome, they can grow tiring after viewing this numerous times, especially in dungeons. Selecting this option will not prevent you from viewing them during your first run-through, but it will automatically skip them thereafter. You can, in most cases, however, manually skip these scenes if you prefer not to set them to be skipped automatically after the first viewing. Number 2. Control Settings under the Target tab. Unselect any and all boxes in the top section titled Target Setting. While these may be useful for casters, or if you're not used to being able to strafe and kite mobs, they all but prevent free movement during an encounter, and in my opinion, make the game unbearable. Number 3. Under Control Settings, the Character tab. Unselect the Show Headgear option. I go back and forth on this depending on what I have equipped. Square Enix has put a lot of customization into the character creation, and no small part of it is focused on your character's hair and face. It seems silly, apart from a few very boss-looking sets, not to showcase your individuality and display the headset you spent the most care in creating, your character's actual face. Item settings. I prefer to set the inventory settings to expanded so that I can see my bags as a whole rather than having to open them individually. UI settings. Number 1. Under the UI settings, General tab. Under the Help title, I find that this is one of the most important things in the game for me to enjoy myself, and I can't emphasize how much more I enjoyed my time in Eorzea once I took the time to search through these options and found this. Rather than unselecting Display Action Help, select the option for Fixed Reversed. I honestly couldn't play this game as a beginner or a returner without this to really learn my moves and rotation without having the tooltip right in my face. Also, recommendations, play guide, and achievements can all be unselected unless you prefer to have them pop up each time you begin a new play session. Number 2, under UI settings, the Hud tab. At the very bottom of the Hud tab, there's an option that, when selected, displays the remaining HP percentage of your target. This is a personal preference and rarely matters with the exception of solo farming mounts where you need to control your damage output in certain situations, but it's a great option nonetheless. We could literally spend 20 plus minutes going over hotbar settings, and that's just with the little understanding that I have of them. As you progress, you may want to create a more custom look to your hotbar UI, and this is where you do so in conjunction with the UI options in the main menu. The one thing I found that was helpful here, however, is being able to unselect the display hotbar numbers box, the enable hotbar cycling box unless you prefer to have multiple setups on one bar, and most importantly, the enable drag and drop repositioning box once you have your hotbar and UI elements placed how you want them. Doing so will prevent you from accidentally grabbing the hotbar and moving it while in combat. Pro tip: each job has a set of very specific job abilities and or secondary skills that they obtain. I generally try to fit most, if not all, of my primary class-based secondary skills on the main hotbars and utilize interchangeable hotbars for the job-specific skills, so it's less of a hassle to change between jobs on the fly. Log window settings. Number 1. Log window settings under the General tab. This is honestly the least important one, but you can disable the profanity filter here if you prefer, although in Final Fantasy XIV the community is pretty PG most of the time, and you probably won't realize you've unselected it even if you do. On to the system settings. These settings will remain the same even if you create an alt. Number 1. Display settings. You can mess around with these to fit your particular build as desired, but at the bottom you'll find a section titled Frame Rate Limit. I recall mine was originally set to 30 by default, so ensure that you either set it to 60 or to none. Again, the graphic settings can be tailored to your specific computer or laptop, so it's worth spending time under these settings to get the look you want. HUD layout and user macros. These are both important to some people who want to customize the look and feel of their experience. I altered my HUD a bit on my main characters, but for the sake of time, we won't be doing that here. There are tons of great videos from people who are far better at it than I am out there, and when you're ready for that level of immersion, I recommend seeking them out. Keybinds. Now, this is the holy grail of making this game better. Whether you're a keyboard turner or a mouse master, you will be utilizing tab targeting a lot. And don't assume that all tab targeting is equal, because it's not. This is an area Square Enix should really show some love in the future, because while the changes I'll show you make it better, it's still not on the same level as much of their competition. Under keybinds, targeting tab. Number 1. Target nearest enemy. Change to tab. Click on the box and push tab. That will make target nearest enemy the default for your tab targeting. Cycling through enemies while in a dungeon is not an issue, except when it means really cycling, like all of them, before returning to the next most vital target. Changing this will target the closest enemy, and it's a lot easier to maneuver yourself into a position to place your desired target closest to you than it is to cycle through potentially dozens of targets. Once all of that is out of the way, it's time to complete the introductory questline and join the Adventurers Guild. Alright, now we're into the good stuff. Let's talk about leveling. Any returner will need to relearn the basics of combat and how to efficiently level through the low-level content. How best to accomplish this depends heavily on the amount of time you have to commit to doing so. However, once you unlock dungeons and the Roulette will be a mainstay in your leveling process throughout the experience. Your hunt log is a great way to level quickly, especially in the lowest level, and will provide you a nice boost to the process if you take the time to find each of the monster types listed in the log. This is also important if you intend to utilize the Grand Company system, as you have to have completed specific levels in the log to advance beyond the initial ranks. This can also assist in leveling your Disciple of the Hand and Disciple of the Land classes, as you're able to purchase manuals from the Grand Company that'll boost your experience with those as well. Your challenge log. Once you've progressed into the main story quest far enough that you can unlock the challenge log, things will begin to flow a bit quicker. While completing the log is limited to weekly objectives, those objectives give large chunks of experience and can really boost your progress while leveling. It is advised to complete as much of the experience yielding portion as possible each week. Many people will not do levels and guild tests beyond 40 to 50, but doing enough to satisfy the challenge log requirements each week will net you a very large portion of a level for 15 to 20 minutes of playtime. The Roulette. We've already talked about it a little bit, but the Roulette is your best friend while leveling. As you advance in levels, your Roulette will expand, allowing you to complete additional types of content for additional experience rewards and tombstones for gear at the max level of each expansion. Faiths. Fates are sometimes fun and interesting, and occasionally they'll have mechanics that will help you learn to perform better in battles that require you to dodge positional and AoE attacks. The experience gain is helpful for passive experience, but they're no longer worth farming unless you have an efficient group that can really make good time on them. Lev quests. Levs are decent, grindable experience. While the experience is not breathtaking by any means, there are some that are quick and efficient to do in batches, and will help you get a level or two pretty quickly in the high 40s if the dungeon queues are too long and you're just done with questing in general. Palace of the Dead. This is supposed to be the most optimal way to level. I personally don't enjoy it, so I can't bring myself to do it, but there are great videos which specifically address this method. Additional things to unlock through the leveling process include your Chocobo. At level 20, assuming you've proceeded far enough in the main story quest, you can unlock your very first Chocobo mount. This is a total game changer, no more running on foot unless you're into that kind of thing, and mass exploration becomes a real option. Then, later, at level 30, you can unlock your Chocobo as a battle companion. Your Chocobo becomes a true Chocobro, and it can function as a weak-ass healer, DPS, or the shittiest tank ever, at least at first. Over time, the Chocobro becomes a great asset, especially when you're leveling alternative classes on the same character. The Chocobo's barding can also be customized, which is a pretty nice feature when you have him walking around with you, so he can look boss as well. Glamour. At level 15, you can unlock the ability to glamour your gear, and this feature can be unlocked by completing a quest in Vesper Bay. Glamour uses crystals which allow you to make a piece of gear that you're wearing take on the appearance of another piece of gear that you like better, without changing any of the stats on the current piece. So, for example, there are custom gear appearances available both in-game and in the cash shop that are item level 1, and they have no stats at all. Obviously not something you would equip to do battle, however, with the Glamour system you could still use this appearance without sacrificing viability in combat. Dyeing. Once you reach Vesper Bay, you can also unlock the ability to dye your gear. This extends to housing items later as well. While some may never use this feature, I found it to be nice to have, especially once you're max level between patches and waiting for new content. Obtaining new gear for Glamour can be something to strive for, and having the ability to dye it to match with your other pieces is a nice addition. The Golden Saucer. It's an in-game casino. Enough said. But there's actually quite a lot to do here, and they're always adding more. Some of the rewards for the points that you obtain are pretty cool and range all the way from glamour items to mounts. The Aetherites. Now this goes without saying, but make sure you attune to all the Aetherite that you come across. It's smart to set your home point to the one closest to where you're going to be questing, so that when you die, you don't have a huge walk back. Depending on where you last set your home point, it could be pricey to have to teleport back to the location you were at if you die and you haven't reset your home point. The Hunt. There are hunt boards and targetable monsters known as marks in the main hubs of each expansion. Killing these marks will grant you a currency known as seals that can be traded in for other rewards. Mount farming. Mount farming is always fun. Final Fantasy XIV has no shortage of mounts you can farm solo or with a group, ranging all the way from primal mounts, which often end with a grand unique mount reward once you've collected all the others, to PvP and achievement mounts, and even some found in raids. While farming mounts isn't everyone's cup of tea, it's an inclusion in the game that can be rewarding, especially when you're powerful enough to go back and solo the primals that you spent so much time wiping on with random groups in the expansion before. There is much more to see and do in the game throughout the process, and even if you don't have the time or desire to do it all as you level initially, due to the ability to level every class on one character, you have ample opportunity to experience all the low-level content again while leveling a different job. I'm sure it goes without saying, but as of now you can only complete the main story quest once per character, so alternative jobs will rely more heavily on alternative ways to gain experience, such as the Roulettes, Palace of the Dead, etc. New Game Plus and 5.0 may change that dynamic. God, I hope it allows experience gain for new jobs, but I don't believe that's been confirmed or denied as of yet, or if so, I haven't been able to find it anywhere. Whether you're returning after giving up on the game early because of its atrocious global cooldown, or just returning for the most recent patches, Final Fantasy XIV is a great place to be. The community is welcoming and mostly helpful, and there's rarely a time where you have absolutely nothing that you could be doing that would progress your character in some way. From all of us here at KickAZ Gaming and the Final Fantasy XIV community as a whole, we're glad to have you back and we'll see you in game. If you have any questions or get stuck, feel free to reach out to us in game or via our community Discord, and we'll be happy to help you in any way we can. If you'd like to play with us, feel free to visit us on the North American server Lamia, where our free company, also named KickAZ Gaming, lives and breathes. We'd love to have you join us. Alright, well I hope you assholes enjoyed this. Be sure to comment below if you enjoyed the video or if you hated it. Punch me in the face with the like button and subscribe. And if you're extra salty that I dared to tread on your feelings on a whim, prove it to everyone and wipe your tears with the dislike button and subscribe anyway so that I can feed on your bitterness next time. I'm Zia with KickAZ Gaming and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Final Fantasy's the best. Bye!